Hi everyone, I hope you're well. This is CoinsKid. Just going to to XRP once again. Thank you, support. Okay, be the CoinsKid crew. So XRP seen a nice little bounce off a trend line. I'll go through that with you in a moment. But we are 80% up on our position from FAFO yesterday. In the video, I did say to you, I've revamped the DEX section on CoinsKid.com. I've included more indicators, micro and macro, and also filters, as well as volume data. And what we've got is a nice little opportunity yesterday where we were sitting in the macro buy zone for FAFO, F-A-F-O, jumped in and currently 80% up. So I know a lot of you jumped into that trade and get a lot of messages. Fantastic. If you are looking for signals in the DEX trades right here, just go to the DEX section. We've got all coins, Solana, Ethereum, so on and so forth. Just click all coins, and what you want to do, if you're looking for your macro entry points or micro entry points, just click micro buy. And also this is the list for the micro buys. You can go down it, currently tracking 26 entries at the moment on the micro buy. And if you're looking for a macro buy, these are your macro buy entries, currently tracking 36 entries. So in all, I think this particular index currently on the DEX section of CoinsKid.com is tracking roughly at the moment we have 684 coins that we're indexing right now. I'm going to add more into this particular system for the CoinsKid crew, but this is an excellent little system that provides macro and micro signals. Let's dive into the charts right now and see what we can see, okay? So looking at S&P 500, this is a really, really important chart. Now, we are doing something we've done before, and we're not necessarily triggered a bear market in this particular chart. Now, a trigger of a bear market in the S&P 500 is two things, okay? And I've gone through this with you a million times, but let me explain this to you again for those people that don't know. Typically in the stock market, if you see a stock fall 20%, okay, it triggers a technical bear market, but then the confirmation of a bear market will be on the lower high and the drop of the pivot point in which was triggered on the bear market. So that's a technical bear market being triggered, more than 20% correction. Then it comes up, makes a lower high and loses that low. Yes, you are in a bear market, and you should be in a downtrend where you experience lower highs and lower lows until you start to reverse and create the opposite, which is higher highs and higher lows. This is pretty much what it did there. Okay, so I'll go through this with you. At the moment, a lot of people say I'm a moontard, bulltard, bias or whatever, but I'm just relaying the data to you. I hope you understand. Just because the S&P's come up and met the technical target 1.618 and a technical target of an inverse head and shoulders pattern does not mean at that particular point it's entered a bear market. Okay, it could simply be a correction, just like we saw there, 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 and just like we saw there. Although at the time that would have felt like a bear market, and this, it wasn't. It was swiftly recovered by a whopping bull market. Okay, huge uptrend in this particular chart that went on to make all-time highs. So I think there's a case, and again, there's no bias on this channel. What's happening right now is the tariffs are coming out. It's some kind of spitting the dummy out the pram moment for stocks. It's coming down like this. If we come down and we start to V-shape out of here, fantastic. This is where you were. You're coming down, you V-shape out. You're coming down, you V-shape out. If we do something like this, trigger a bear market in the S&P 500, which is a 20% correction from this point, we will be looking for the lower high and the loss of the trigger point. Just like here, you come down, you come up, lower high, trigger point, boom, you're in a whopping correction until you start to create a series of higher highs and higher lows, which you weren't doing in this correction. That's your confirmation of an uptrend. This is why at this particular time frame in January 2023, I got incredibly bullish on XRP. Okay, so a lot of people saying bias and things like that, but I'm not. I'm just relaying the data to you. Structural data is really important to me in charts. Okay, not necessarily he said, she said, or the sentiment in the market. It's structure within the charts themselves. So if we take a look at this correction right now for the S&P 500, it's currently down roughly 12%. If we take a look at this correction way back when, this came down roughly 20%. Bear market, it wasn't. It was V-shaped out of there. This correction came down. This was Corona dump, came down a whopping 35%. Bear market, it wasn't. It V-shaped out of there. So, that was a golden opportunity way back when. It wasn't a bear market. This was a golden opportunity way back when. It wasn't a bear market. And right now we may be gearing up for something very similar where the market, is spitting its dummy out. We come down. And it's all about the next retracement. We come down because this chart will retrace. Even in whopping corrections, you come down, you retrace, you come down, you retrace. It's all about the structure of the trend, okay, which we've got to pay attention to. If we enter lower high and lower low structure, yes, we're in a downtrend. At that point, we've got to jump out of XRP, okay, and this is something I'm relaying to you. So let's dive into the XRP chart right now. But technically, we've not necessarily entered the bear market for the S&P 500, which I think is really, really important. It's the most important chart that I look at with you every single day to give us a guide to the future of risk on, basically. So at the moment, you're down 12%. If it comes down and comes lower than this white line at 4912, At that point, it will trigger a technical bear market where we're looking for the structure of lower highs and lower lows, just like here, okay? Not necessarily here where we come up and V-shaped out. We need to pay attention to what this chart is doing over the next few weeks, okay? Let's dive into XRP chart right now to see what we can see. So look at XRP on the 5-day time frame. The reason I look on macro time frames and not necessarily on micro time frames, micro time frame, for example, 15-minute, we zoom in right now, we can find little micro trades. There was a lovely little inverse head and shoulders that got negated the other day. That was a very unfortunate trade. But you know, we can find little micro trades on the lower time frames, but your bigger trades, your more zoomed out look, and you know what the projection for the future for this particular chart. This is why I zoom out. So on the micro right now, you've possibly got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 set up, possibly an impulsive move off this low, where you've got 5 waves to the upside. Right now, going for an ABC, retracing to this low. So if that's the case, we've hit a level of resistance right there after 5 waves up, and we are currently retracing. Okay, so this is your stop loss right now. The 1 fib at 195.936. If you are in any longs, that is where you have your stop basically. So if this chart is retracing, you've got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave move up, and right now you're in some kind of ABC that comes back like this. You will be building bids with your stop loss on the 1 fib for the next move to the upside, and that is simple trading. You've got a god candle back test just there around about $2. What is that? $2.13. And I think as well, if we zoom to the left, you can clearly see just there, there's a god candle back test around about $2.30, I think it is. So we could, if this would start to come back like this and hold to support of the 1 fib at 195936, that's where you have your stops, and this starts to break to the upside. You've got a nice little trade in front of you on XRP. So that's a little micro trade. But on the macro, I like to zoom out because it gives us a bigger view of the picture of what's going on with XRP. So let's take a look at the 5-day time frame. I think it's a very important time frame. So if you are looking to trade XRP, this could be a very minimal risk trade for you. Go long, stop loss 195936. To negate the trade, you've got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 setup, ABC coming back. This should turn around and start to come back up the stairs. Okay, but obviously always apply stop loss. Don't be an over leveraged degen. Don't go in your life savings. This is trading. You don't win them all. We lost a trade the other day on an inverse head and shoulders pattern, unfortunately, right there. In fact, if we move to the right, we could say, okay, if this is a reversal right now for XRP, we've got some kind of monster inverse head and shoulders like this that's forming right on the bottom here. So let's dive into the 5-day time frame right now. But if you are looking to trade XRP, micro, macro, whatever, I would highly recommend Bybit and Blowfin. The links are in the video description. Don't be an over leveraged degen. Don't go in your life savings. Let's dive into the 5-day time frame, which is a very important macro time frame for XRP. So look at XRP on a 5-day time frame. At the moment, we're running into resistance at the 0 fib, and we are currently tracing to the 1 fib. We lose a 1 fib, XRP is in a world of trouble. It's coming down to at least 1.272 at 0.21091. Obviously, that's a major bearish projection right there. I'm not calling for that, but obviously it's in the charts. If we do start to come down from here, collapse, roll over or whatever, and we start to come lower than this high here, then I think, obviously we're in a world of trouble. If we start to break down below 786, we start to come back into this range, then I think we've got an increased probability. Okay, we'll lose this low from which we've come, and we will be down there at least on the 1.272 fib at 0.21091, where I'll buy a substantial amount of XRP. So that is obviously a bit of hopium for the the perma bears jumping up and down right there. Now technically XRP is bullish, although it doesn't feel like it. It's all about the retracement levels that we're going through. So this was a low way back in January, and this was a high. This was another higher low way back in July of last year, and currently this is still a higher high. So technically you are coming to stairs like this for XRP, and you can retrace, hold the low and come back out. That's absolutely possible, and that is currently my projection. That's what I think is happening for XRP, but I don't know how deep and how big this correction will actually be. So it's all about the structure and the clues within the charts themselves that gives us clues to the deepness of the correction. I hope you understand that. So we came up here in 5 waves, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we had this whopping retracement coming back for anyone that's been on the channel for a very long time. So at this point in, I think it was March last year, we came up in a 3-wave move on the daily that failed to take the high out. And at this point I made an emergency video for yourselves telling you how I thought that XRP had not completed the correction. It was still in the correction, and at this point we're going to come down in 5 waves to the downside to complete the correction off, and it will come down into a sweet spot buy zone, which was roughly this god candle back test at 0.38 cents. It was a beautiful buy zone that I gave you way back up there last year. A lot of people left the channel says no way, but I was looking at really simply from the high in July, I was looking at retracement to the low from which would come in January of 2023. I was looking at 786 as confluence on that god candle back test just there, wherein I think it was March of 2023 we actually broke out in a god candle back test, an ascending triangle, and we'd never come back to that level of previous resistance as support, and we snagged it. This is where we jumped in summer last year, and we've been riding this bad boy up ever since, basically. Now I'm looking for more clues in this chart, okay, because for example here, this retrace, come back down, held the 786 on this low and still turn around. So technically I'm not saying we're going to come down to the 786, because that would start to break the rules of Elliott wave, because I'm looking at is a 1 into a 2 into a 3. So technically if this is a 4 right now, it can't come back any lower than that. It can't come back to the 0618 at 88 cents. The lowest it can actually come is that high there, which is your wave 1 high around about 94 cents, which is your wave 1 in July of 2023. So I'm looking at these levels here as an absolute minimal, basically, for a maximum, sorry, for XRP. It cannot afford to come any lower than that, because if it does, what that increases probability is A, B, C, and then you've got another drop to the downside like that. That's the increased probability. If you start to see XRP trading below that high there, what you've not seen is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 setup before it can actually come back below that high. Do you understand? Because that would break the rules of Elliott wave, and that would mean that, okay, this is an ABC, and right now you're collapsing into oblivion. Possible, but the increased probability of that will be if you start to lose this wave 1 high. So I know it confuses a lot of people, but that's just simply the rules of Elliott wave right there. So in this retracement that we're going through, I'm trying my hardest to find the levels for you. At the moment we've been putting bids on the 20-week EMA. They've been really fruitful, but we are beginning to see closes below the 20-week EMA, and we are beginning to see closes below the ribbon on the 5-day time frame. So at the moment it's a little bit scary, okay, for XRP, because if we continue to see these lower closes where we're losing the 20 and we're losing the ribbon, and then we start to see a 5-day close below the 236 at $2.03095, then we're in a deeper correction here. We're coming down to the 382, and if we start to lose that, we're on the 0.5 fib. We can't afford to go any lower than that, because if we do, okay, this is an ABC before a whopping move to the downside, where if you start to come lower than the 1 fib at 0.38 from which you've come just here, then okay, you're looking at 1.272 at 0.221091 for XRP. So I wouldn't necessarily want to be holding on to XRP if it did fall below that July high, roughly 94 cents right there. So at the moment it is caught in a correction, and anyone telling you the bottom's here, the bottom's there and things like that is talking at the bumhole. It is all about the structure going forward. So technically what I'm looking at, and there's no bias, is a 1 into a 2 into a 3 into an irregular 4, which was still in, and then some kind of final turnaround, and at that point we'll begin a deeper macro correction. That is my primary at the moment. So I'm looking for the clues in the charts. If this thing starts to turn around and we break that red line, I think we're in the last impulsive move there before a bigger macro correction. That could actually be the case, because if we look at the S&P 500, I've gone through this with you, if we V-shape out of there, the next level of resistance is a 2 fib in a V-shape recovery, and that could lead to this final 5th wave for XRP. Accompanying this particular confluence as well is the crystal ball indicator as a potential scenario right there that is showing liquidity coming back into the market after leaving it in December of last year. So at the moment there's no bias. I'm just being patient. I'm looking for more clues in the charts for a deeper correction here for XRP. If we do start to close below $2.03 in the next 1 day 13 hours, in the next 2 days, then okay, we've got to target that as a potential scenario, because you're losing the support just there, which is really important level of support that we've been holding for a very long time. Since December we've been holding this sort of $2 range right there. We start to break down below the $2, you've got an increased probability of a next fib being met for XRP. So technically you've come up, you retrace, you're looking for the support to break out to the upside with the crystal ball liquidity re-entering the market. I hope you understand the update. Nothing I say is financial advice, but structurally at the moment, although it doesn't feel like it, XRP is actually quite sound going forward. I'm just looking for more clues in the charts to a deeper pullback. I hope you understand that update. Stay healthy, stay strong, stay tuned. Remember, if you're looking for DEX trades, don't go in life savings, don't be a degen. You can find DEX trades, buy signals on the micro and macro on CoinsKid.com. Stay healthy, stay strong, stay tuned. Take care everyone. Bye bye.